Life. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Igama Makawe Wakakatide. My slave name is Goodwill. Um, don't like that name, but yeah. So I'm called Goodwill. Apparently, after Goodwill Zolitini, may his soul rest in peace. But yeah, today, okay. Welcome to PKUnshackled live with King Joshua Maponga III on 1632 TV. Right. A lot of people ask me, why do you do this? And I do this because I want the truth. In as much as we all are born into a belief system, at some point, every single human being reaches some awakening. Whether it is spiritual awakening, whether it's a cultural awakening, traditional, physiological, psychological, but at some point it happens. And I crossed that bridge, and now I want to share the circles that I interact with and in finding the truth, right? One of the things that we are doing, and Bob Maponga will support me on this. So for the longest of times, we have joked about a men's conference, right? We've joked about all these things. This past long weekend, people were saying, no, your man mustn't go Elimpopo because he's getting married or he's going to another men's conference that doesn't exist. Well, we are doing one, and it's called, I'll tell you the title, you understand how serious we are. It's called Blowjobs, Bibles, and Bears, or Blowjobs, Bears, and Bibles. Yes, that's the correct one. For the longest of times, we've listened to the vagina monologues. We've listened to the PUSSY something. There's another, yeah. So now it's time for men to come up with a men's conference that we can name the way we want and have the discussions that we want, however we want them. And it's not jail, because most of the problems.
I just did one in Mahalisbek where we're dealing with polygamy. What was scary on that conference is that 60% of the men that attended, I had more than 42 people that attended. 60% of them, after I gave them a definition of polygamy, 60% of them raised their hands that they're in polygamous relationships, either with a side chick or with a girlfriend or with a child outside of marriage. Because it means that you are economically in a polygamous relationship, or you're psychologically in a polygamous relationship, or you're maritally in a polygamous relationship. So polygamy must not just be viewed in the traditional sense of indoor, elaleni, in our first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The modern society has actually given us a new, the girl who 18 years, she's your wife. Let's cut all the shit out. Sorry for the language. Cut all the trash out. That's your wife. You have a child together. And this child is going to be your responsibility between now and the time he dies. The time he gets married, my negotiations, if he dies, tell me you will not attend that funeral. So in a way or another, spiritually, you are attached to this person. But between now and then, economically, you are actually in a polygamous relationship. Because while you're looking after your main wife at home, we are for side chikuti, if he's here short, you have to look after that woman also. And once in a while, yes, the concoction is in hospital. You have to find an excuse and run to that hospital bed and go and check out your boy. So in one way or the other, polygamy cannot just be viewed in the traditional sense of ubadali inkomo unawafaza by 3. And when I discovered that this is the reality, if 60% of the men that attended the conference there were polygamous, if I had 1,000 people, it would have meant that 600 men who were standing there, some of them pastors, directors of companies, CEOs, directors in public departments and governments, and nabaphakamisa izandla bathi hayi mfundisi ngedefinition osinikeze yona Nami in his temp. And you look back and say, this whole thing of women trying to define what the society must be like. And men are slower, but culturally, in terms of practice, we still find ourselves caught up in this conundrum where you were not there. I'm now 40 years old. I want to settle, but I have 3 baggages on my back. How do I relate to that? Oh, nakamina ngetwa. How do I look after you only when actually I've been with 3 other women behind you who equally I must be involved in, and I even have, in West still, I even have children with those women. So men's conference is quite important. We're looking at financial abuse that women are giving us. And I raised a comment on that conference. We need a special conference. Just to look at how Kanyimbao treated that young man. 100 million runs later, a boy is left stuck in a saloon.
Yeah, but nicely, ma. But nicely, ma. You see, this. No,
remember,
but
you're talking about the PUSY, double SY conferences that tell women what to do. We are talking as men now. As Slim, because he played the game.
Police.
Let's go here, let's go. And the man obeys because it is an acceptable thing that must be done. If it was 20 years later or 30 years later, into the
No, I understand that. I understand that. So that there's the structure to our conversation. Let's divide it into 3 things. I'm going to the men's conference that we're planning. It's divided into masculinity, sexuality, and spirituality. Manje, asiqale ngale masculinity. Mina, I've lost. The lines are blurred now. I don't know what masculinity is because my perception of masculinity, the world out there calls it toxic masculinity. Is there any non-toxic masculinity, or such thing doesn't exist in the real world? What is masculinity?
We also need to talk about toxic femininity. So when we argue,
talk, Baba. Talk.
Yeah,
talk.
When you're in my space, what happens on the left must happen on the right. That is accounting. It is best. So if you are talking about toxic masculinity, are we saying we don't have toxic femininity? The answer is yes. There are women who are beating up their men. There are women who are depriving their men of sexual conjugal rights. There are women who are using children as a source of swindling money out of their men and etc. Are these men not being abused psychologically, emotionally, and economically? So for me, it's neither here nor there. We need to start talking about a society that is in the 21st century, that is dealing with a plurality of complex issues that are beginning to pen themselves out into the male space. The question is, how do we deal with all these issues?
The question I'm asking you is, I understand the discussion of toxic femininity, and that's a whole new discussion for another day, because I also have experienced a toxic femininity, but for the fear of repercussions and whatnot, I don't mention the word toxic femininity, because once you say toxic femininity, the comeback is, but the toxic femininity was created to counter toxic masculinity. So ubudoda yini? Masikhuluma ngobudoda. Is it sleeping around, pumping? Is it what is it?
Okay. When you are coming into this life, when you are being born into this life, nature decides whether you're going to come out as a woman or you're coming out as a man. My simple definition: a woman must be a woman and not feel threatened, abused, or sidelined, or second-guessed because she's a woman. On the right-hand side, a man is born as a man. A man must feel it is okay to be a man without being abused, without being bundled up with expectations that the women's world has on the man. So for me, it is a balance between femininity and masculinity. And since we are talking about masculinity, I want to be a man. Whether I'm an alpha male or a beta male or a gamma male or an X male or a Z male, that's not the issue. But if I am a man, can I be allowed in this society to live, practice, and live as a man without feeling that when I say to a woman, I don't like this, she feels like I'm using masculinity to override with it. But this is what I am. This is what I am. I'm a man. I was born in the 60s. And my worldview of how men and women treat each other is shaped by the principles and values of the 60s and 70s. You come 2000, you want me to act like a 2000 man, but I don't have the software. I don't have the software that tells me that a girl in the 21st century, a woman in the 21st century must be treated like this, like this. Now, when you are coming in as a 21st century woman and treating someone who was born in the 60s and tell him to behave like a 21st, are you not abusing me? You're messing up my software. You're messing up my tradition. You're messing up my worldview so that I can match up with you. Where is the meeting point where the 21st century woman can say, the man is of the old school? Where do we do half of this and half of that? So that a woman feels comfortable in the 21st century as much also as a man in the 60s feels comfortable. And unfortunately, of course, the man in the 60s has more money. He has more
money.
He has more resources.
He's got loads of spinach.
He's got the clout. If you say, let's fly to Dubai, I say, buy the tickets. No, I was saying you must buy them. No. I want us to go to the village and I want to go and clean up the graves of my fathers.
Abuse.
Yeah, it's abuse. Because I'm going to put them ngifike ekhaya lapho ngifaka iduku ngenze njani ngibheke imhodu nanando ziyanuka lezi zinto achaphela wena ma 21st century ideologies sponsor them with your budget. Me with my 60s, I can sponsor what I'm saying with my budget. Ngizohlaba inkomo lapha ekhaya. Uyopheka umqombothi lapha ekhaya and we'll do the tradition that must be done. Who is being abused here? So you see emotional, psychological, spiritual, economic, and all these dynamics coming into the play. At the end of the day, if we end up in Dubai, the question is who has won, who has lost. If we end up in the village, who has won and who has lost. But maybe life is not about winning and losing. Maybe life is about finding that common convergence that says, okay, this week, Asen's Muslims was Sekaya. Next week, let's go to Dubai. Of course, the bill will always end up with me.
Yeah, but why? But why does the bill end up with you? See, I don't have a problem, Bayo, and that's why the lines are blurred. Gimme when everything. So scripture says man is the provider. African customs say man is the provider. And you get to the 21st century where it says man is not necessarily the provider. The woman can be the provider.
By the
But
way,
that is in an ideal world.
Point of correction. Men provide what?
Angas. Imali. What is provide? Imali.
You said man is a provider. Question. Indoda is provider ini, umfazi provider ini. So the whole concept, even if you're supposed to look at the provision side, the woman provides, a man provides. So don't say a man is a provider, because even what he's providing is not an absolute holistic. He provides everything. A man does not bring everything with him. A woman is also providing some certain things. So that balance for me is critical because it puts the conversation into context. Because when I fail to provide, you may not provide the other things that you must provide.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I'm glad because you come from the church. That's what has been preached all our lives. Indoda is a provider. Now, the narrative has never been if a man provides this, the woman must provide that. No. The man as the head of the house must provide. You understand? And that's the understanding that most men, most of us grew up in church. Most of people in society grew up in church. And that's what we've understood. Forget what a woman can provide. What do you provide? Or when you must provide. Now, part of the discussion here, my good brother, my friend, is that we must teach people to unlearn these things. And I'm glad you mentioned that in as much as indoda must, that phrase irritates the the Lucifer out of me. Indoda must. And they joke about it, but I'm quite cautious when something becomes
indoda must. See fucking
yeah.
and a woman must. Then it sounds very horrible. Because once you begin to say a woman must, then the women want to raise up their hands in protest and says, but no, we are not forced to. But if you women are not forced to provide their section of the bargain, then why are you making it compulsory for men to provide whatever it is that you want to provide? So again, I'm glad we're having this conversation because it levels the ground. That you cannot expect and push a man to provide whatever it is that you want him to provide when you are also not prepared to provide. Because when I come into the house, ufake parachute on top, ufake stop nonsense on top, ufake pijama, ufake morning gown, ufake nengubo phezulu. Umfazi wakho namayelele uba inqwabe engaka. And I've done my part. I paid the rent. I've provided the car. I've provided the security. There's an alarm. There's a watchman at the gate. Everything that a man must. I've met my requirements. But when I come to the house, I must still beg.
Okay. Now that translates to the second part of discussion. But in finishing off this masculinity topic, is masculinity directly related to your pockets? So if une mali eningi, are you
inhloko na iyadumba, but ngifuna imali eningi inhloko yami idumbe. So when you're
yeah, so my question is masculinity related to your pocket? So if you don't have plenty, you don't feel like a man, or society says, or we are conditioned.
We have to become dynamic so that we are relevant. The generation we're living in now has given us a new definition of masculinity. Masculinity in the olden days, umfana uhambe entabeni wayesoka, umfana ohlele ekhaya nenkomo zikababa, umfana who is doing everything culturally, and that's a man. Indoda ibushe nenkomo zayo. Now circumcision is no longer an issue. And the inkomo zasekhaya is no longer an issue. Inkomo zifuneka center. Inkomo zifuneka Rosebank. We must swipe the cards, ordering 26, 28-year-old Moyets and Jemarsons 12 to 18 years. Then we measure your masculinity. So we are again looking at a dynamic progress of culture into the space now where we now have to deal with this new definition of masculinity. Unfortunately, these new definitions have not been taught to the young boys to say, hey, it's beginning to filter in through media, through etc. But a young boy is just growing up normally, who is being told, Mtanam, I bought 2 cattle for you now. You are 3 years old. By the time you are 20, you'll have 60 cattle. Then convert those cattle into money so that you can look after your girls in town. You can buy a flat for her. You can buy a car for her. You can take her to the saloon and you can fly her to Dubai and etc. every 3 to 6 months. As now, I got figure my definitions because masculinity now is being converted into financial stability.
So now you realize my passion about having this men's conference, although it's a virtual men's conference, but we'll have time to discuss these topics. You understand? Yoguti, your definition and understanding of masculinity is totally independent and totally different to mine. Mine is influenced by social media. Mine is influenced by the social media space. You understand? I am constantly online reading stuff. So my understanding of what a man is and what I should be as a man in society is influenced by this. Whereas you, I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge about African traditions, customs, the Kemetic culture, and all. So the two worlds at some point must come together. And you say, guys.
Again, we need to punctuate correctly and agree that the dominant culture is abusing the African culture. What you could be consuming on social media and all the other various spaces of communication does not mean that it is directly congruent to who you are as a Katidian, who is a Zulu, and who is South African. So we're actually looking at adopted cultural norms that have become acceptable because of the constant conversation on the social media. By no means do I sit here and justify that quality of information actually is verified by who you are as a person. So again, we're looking at young boys who are brown in color, but they are white in terms of mindset. So the social media you're talking about, is it talking about popular culture? Is it talking about media culture? Is he talking about Hollywood culture? Is he talking about the film star culture? I bet you if you can walk up to Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, and Will Smith in their private homes, vis-a-vis what they're acting on the stage, and find them in their homes, you might find a contrary conversation. Now Will Smith, he was entangled. How do you get entangled? How do you get entangled when you actually understand the world culture, where you've been acting that men can share a woman and etc. But when a man gets home and finds that his woman has been sleeping with another man and etc. and now he has to deal with that at a home setting. The question is, even the social media stuff that we are consuming, is it acceptable? Here is the social media space on Princess Diana and what happened. That's media. But come back home. How did the grandmother act when she discovered that the daughter is sleeping with a black man who is an a black man in Egypt? How did they react? How did the M15 react to that? Was the accident of Diana an accident? Or was it now a crime scene of we cannot allow a princess of London to be impregnated by a black African Egyptian? So you begin to ask even those other questions that begin to even poke issues. And when Princess Diana died, was she pregnant? And what was the royal house trying to protect? We cannot discuss those issues before we get ourselves entangled again into political and legislative debates, which might end us in Birmingham and broke for the rest of our lives because we're living under the Roman Dutch law. But again, even what you are seeing as public social media diet, is it a diet or it is an acted diet? In reality, these people that are acting, when they are done with Photoshop and what do they call these things? They call them what? They call them this thing where they put things on their faces on media. What they call it? They call them shades. Yeah.
Oh yeah, shades. Okay. Makeup.
Yeah. You take a black girl and you put powder on your. When you look at her and you marry that woman on media, when you get back home and she washes her face, is that what you are ready for? It's witchcraft.
All right. Okay. Now, I think let's drop that point. But for the viewers out there, more of this will be discussed on the men's conference. Watch out for it. It's coming 2022. It's called Blowjobs.
2022.
Bible.
2022.
No, 2022. Yes. So the next segment is sexuality. Now, Baba, you touched something on the previous discussion, which we can. What is sexuality according to African context? Let's start there, because let's start.
angifuna ukukhuluma nabafazi, angikhulume nendoda.
Angithi yindoda, khuluma nami, yindoda.
Mayindoda ibambe amasende, ibambe omkhulu. You are holding the house in which your ancestors are living in. Your penis is a cable that connects your history with your present wife and creating a future generation. Sexuality, therefore, must be demystified from the Hollywood and pornographic entertainment where people are putting milk and playing around sex and pouring waters into women's vaginas, and the woman is coming, she's tweaking, and she's
squirting
and all these things. And abafaz bathi nathi siceleni nisichamise nathi nisichamise nathi mawufuna ukuchama hamba uphuza amanzi sisi uzochama ngempela. So it's not, and again you're looking at the commercialized concept of sexuality where a man must perform. Again,
must.
We've just finished one must.
Yeah.
A man must provide. A man must pay bills. A man must. You're moving to the next section. It still boils down again. A man must make his woman come. A man must sexually fulfill his. A man must. Are you sure about all these musts that you are putting? On two levels. Is the man you're expecting to do these things, number one, from the first conversation, is he financially equipped to meet up those requirements? When you as a mother, you are bringing up a boy child, are you preparing him to meet up those requirements, which is the first section of the masculinity of men? By the time you're discussing men's sexuality, do we have homes right now that have trained their children to sexually fulfill their partners? Is sexuality being discussed as a subject where Ubaba will sit down with his boy and teach him that the tools that you are carrying, young men, where you are going? Because by the time we're getting you married, the question is, are you prepared for the amount of expectation that the other side is waiting for? Again, you are dealing with another, a man must.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things, sorry to interject, one of the things that really worries me, especially, I always refer to the church because I know no other world. So the church says to you, Makawe, sex before marriage is wrong. Fine. So you preserve yourself. You get married, right? Once you've crossed over, you marry usista othandazayo uthandinkosi, and then you find out that you're not sexually compatible. Yeah. So you find out that you're not sexually compatible, as in like you are not sexually compatible. You understand? Now Tina's nelak, and I know this sounds bad. I mean, I broke that law long ago. When they said sex before marriage is a sin, I said, but so I practiced. So I said, oh, this sex thing is nice. You understand? And then you get into marriage, you know, now all of a sudden you must remove this pleasure element related to sex. You must only procreate. You must only occasionally service the bare minimum requirement in the institution of marriage so that you don't go and cheat. Now that worries me. You understand? Okay, if that's the case, you know, industry of prostitution will never end. Will never. I have no problem with prostitutes, by the way.
It is the oldest, by the way. It is the oldest.
Yeah. Oldest profession in the world. So my question is, and the truth is, now let's tell the truth. I mean, I hate lying. Most people who go to prostitutes are not single guys. I'm married men. I'm married men, married pastors, married church board, married CEOs. There's high end prostitutes in Sentin, wherever, in Bedford View. They're there. Now my question is, how have we and it also worries me, Gucci, when we speak of sexuality, we always tata into issue abelungu. You understand? Izinto ezenzakalayo vale zenzakale as abelungu benza. You understand? Why have we not made the topic of sex central to our sexuality? Instead, kuzokhulunywa indoda must. You understand? And they joke about it. No, umncinci manginikeza imali enwele chomi umncinci. And it's said ukuthi the other gender, I don't want to say who they are, the other gender can say to us, ngiyakuncintsha ngoba ufuna ukungipha imali.
I think you're raising a very critical point, where even in marital spaces, sex has become prostitution because you must pay for it. You must perform certain rites so that you can be given access to the sex issue. So masculinity and sexuality, maybe in the men's conference, we can look at it from that angle. Why do women want sex? And why do men want sex? What does sex do to both partners? And how is sex being used as a tool for manipulation and as a tool for bringing people together? And those issues at a more deeper level, women, when they want sex from a man, what does it mean to the man that you are asking this sex for? And when a man is asking for sex from a woman, what does it mean to a man who is asking for these rights, conjugal rights in a marital home, or sexual favors in a relationship or in a prostitution environment? But we must say it loudly that many homes are stable right now because of prostitutes. Prostitutes and side chicks have kept these men and these homes stable. Because umfazi uthi mncishe indoda athi sharp, no problem. Indoda shaya short left.
Akarasi.
Siyovuka ejele mfethu masingaqala ukundaba kulwa nabafazi. Siyovuka ejele.
Yeah.
Grand. Sharp, no problem. Where's my food? And then eats his food, goes on internet quickly. Ladies in fourways, looking for men. 28 pictures later, he's selecting the shape and size that he wants. And tomorrow afternoon, between lunch and 3, he shy short left inside Bonnie client. Right, comes back home. Hello, children. Hello, and how are you? And everything is fine.
Chabli.
Are you aware that actually this scenario is creating, lying men? It's creating prostitutions. It's creating, infidelity. And it's been created on a religious platform that says a man must be faithful to one wife, and a wife must be faithful to one. But in the midst of that faithfulness, he does not go on to say, please watch your faithfulness, that you don't lead your partner into temptation, according to the book of Corinthians. Don't deprive each other of conjugal rights. Our fundalaw maves. So it's none of my business.
But let me ask you this question. Are conjugal rights important, or it's just as mythical as this men's conference? When you speak of conjugal rights, you must remember now there's a very serious word called consent. So actually, when you speak of conjugal rights, it's like you're talking about something that does not exist. You can't say to your wife, I demand my conjugal rights. She will say no. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Isingisi nje mfethu, isingisi esikhulunywa ngabo advocates into zama conjugal rights, because once you make it a right, you can't use consent and the right in the same sentence. Iba confused land. A right for me, it's what I must receive without asking for. So kufanele mangingena endlini ngempela ngithola imbiza ziyavutha nje but ngena ba. But maso kune request ne begging bills that must be paid before a right is given. It's no longer conjugal rights. And I'm glad I'm talking to you as a man, so I don't have to cover up. I know when people listen to this, they're going to come up with their own perceptions, as if this is a patriarchal dominance and all this stuff. I've gone past that stop. It's men talking to men. I cannot lie, even as a grown-up man right now. I don't understand the women's world. I don't understand. Because at one time, it is convenient to be protected. At another time, it's my freedom to be with who I want to be, and you don't have to protect me. Then I don't know how far must I protect you? How far must I provide for you? Because when I provide for you, I still cannot get access to that which is important to me as a man. But it is supposed to be acceptable within the women's world that they want their cake and they still want to eat it. It does not make sense to me. It does not make sense to me that at one time you give us, this is what a man must do. A man does all that thing. Yeah, you want a house, you want this, yeah, done, packaged. And you still come on the other side and you must be kneeling in front of your bed and knocking and asking and it's still not being delivered. Then the question is, what are conjugal rights? Then break them into two sections. What are men's rights? What are women's rights? And then the last section, what is it they must share in common without making each other feel like they're obliged to do something? I don't have to feel obliged to have sex with you. Neither you as a woman must you feel obliged to be involved in a sexual relationship with me. If it is conjugal, it must be a common understanding. That's my definition of conjugal rights. It's being in an institution where you understand the basic requirements of managing this relationship and not putting it as a burden on the other party to access that which rightfully belongs to them without them doing anything to deserve it.
Ngikuzwile mina ngino question. Uquestion wami uthi.
Ikuku ayicelwa.
Amen.
Ipenseli ayicelwa.
Amen. Ngabe uvula ivesi. No, but lalela. But
I'll write it in my Bible. I'll write it in my Bible. It must
now, my worry is now, Utiwa. No, we can be in a union, but have multiple partners. What's the point of being in a union if you're going to have multiple partners? It's acceptable now.
Asikhulume ku men's conference.
All right.
Yeah, ngoba
Inzinyana.
Inzinyana ngale ndlela kuba omunye ufake inkomo lapha ekhaya.
Yeah.
Omunye
okay.
Yeah, omunye akafakanga lutho ekhaya. Lo ongayibhadelelanga nguye oyidlayo. Lo bhadelile isikolo sakho nasipheli sokubhadala. So
yeah,
I think that one it needs a totally different conversation because a man is free to have relationships kanjalo nama obligations abuya kulezi zinto. I mean ngeke mina ngikokha inkomo zami enye indoda efika ngimithizela umfazi endlini yami. A man gets my wife pregnant with my lobola money and I must pay school fees for another man whose balls are hanging on the streets because he made my wife pregnant. I think that is now man-to-man abuse. That one needs a full conversation on the side. That if a woman wants to have another relationship, there are two ways to it. If now a woman says, I got enough strong balls, I can have multiple relationships, but I am now able to refund you some of the cattle that you paid for your lobola, or I can now go and marry this other man who is going to be servicing me, so that they don't interfere with our conjugal agreement on yabona iba complicated mfethu asiyeke ngoba abekho ready ukuthi singayikhuluma lento ukuthi abafazi baqale bashada amadoda uzodwa uyizamile yamshaya ngenduku usomisi naye uyizamile yamlalise ebridge. So I think that one we need a totally different conversation to start on that. I don't think we'll be able to exhaust it in this one.
Okay, I just got a comment here saying, can you speak English for the non-native viewers? We will try and speak as much English as possible, but the truth is,
the same people accuse us that you are Africans. Why are you speaking in a Western language? When you speak in African languages, the same people come back again and say, speak in English so that we all can hear. Please, people, choose what you want. We will communicate. You can put a translator there and hear what we are saying.
Okay, yeah, we'll try. But I'm glad you mentioned. Okay, so not the expectation, but people are moving towards this thing of having multiple sexual partners and multiple relationships. So my question is, what is the use of a union? But a greater question is, so when people are engaged in sexual intercourse and stuff like that, there's spiritual exchange. So here you are, Makawe Katide, you come with multiple, spirits into your home. You understand? And Baba, we are going to be serious. So we are saying, no. Let them demon or Maponga laga Katide.
Session. I suggest we create another show purely looking at this. For the purpose of today, it's masculinity, it's sexuality, it's spirituality. I think we're doing fine. Though there are elements on the sexual encounter with spiritual inclinations that are coming into it. But I would like to discuss masculinity and spirituality purely on that level. Because once we begin to dilute it now with multiple partners into a home, and ancestral, cultural, religious, and spiritual fruit salads that are being created. I know a man right now who is looking after 3-4 children that don't belong to him. But yet he paid the full lobola for this woman. He only has one child. The other 3 are not his. In his home. He is paying rent, school fees, and everything else. Because the woman decided that you will not birth me children. She was having side boys. Now, you look at this man sitting on his corner, having to deal with 3 other surnames in his own house of children that don't belong to him. How do you feel this man is feeling? Some of the domestic violence issues we're discussing need to be put in context. Not only are they financial abuses, sexual abuses, conjugal rights abuses, extramarital affairs abuses, children born out of wedlocks in the homes, and a man must struggle with a woman for 9 months who is carrying a child that does not belong to him, pay for maternity ward, pay for medical aids, run around the hospitals, go to clinics, attend crash parents meetings, attend primary school parents meetings. This young boy is beating other children only to discover 8 years later, 9 years later, that all those years you spent working with this stupid little fool boy that is in your house. Only now are you told it's not your child. I am not justifying it. In fact, usebenze iminyaka eyisikhombisa naphezulu usebenzela into engaseyakho enye indoda elengisa amasende. Another man is walking the streets having a good time. And the woman finally tells you it's not your child.
and la iphuma manilo ne manilo actually futhi akuso wakho futhi. You know the word futhi?
Yeah, footwear. Footwear now says you calm foot. You don't even make me calm. Yeah.
Yeah, my son is making noise here. he wants to hear what this topic's about.
No, you can sit him with you, then he won't run around. And it's, you don't make me calm. And for that reason, I thought I'll go to the side and then I calm. And while you're coming, now you're coming with children. And me, as a man who has given dignity to you, must now deal for the next 20 years with the problem that you have invited into the home. Yes, the other side is men that have children outside of marriage. So I think we need to balance it all together. And but now that we're talking about men, we now need to understand. Here is a woman, you buy a house for her, you buy a car for her, you put your child on medical aid, you do your best to look after her, only to find her now driving with another boyfriend in your car. Another boy is now sleeping in your bed that you bought, and another man is in your house. Now he is now being called dad because he can buy a sweet and a chocolate for your boy in a house and in a car that you are running. And this is complex. This thing is becoming hectic.
It's very complex, Bob. It's very, you know what? And I realized that in the forums that I've been in, so at school, at church, at youth choir, at camps, at work, in the corporate, these discussions don't exist. You know, self-choose. You know, it's like we are zombies. You know, we just accept what is being told to us. We don't question. We don't analyze. We don't have. You know, I've never had this conversation with anyone. You know, people they'll claim to be sexologists. They'll claim to be what you might call it. But when it comes to having the serious discussions, people, you know, it's like, oh no, and I hate the default referral to the Bible. I don't have a problem with the Bible, but I don't want a situation where we're having a serious discussion, you understand, and then instead of you interrogating the world we live in, interrogating the truths that we have in front of us, default verse Bible, First Corinthians, what says? I'm like, no, wait.
Actually, those people who run to the Bible, they don't even read it. Because in the Bible, you hear another man being told, go and sleep with the wife of your brother who has died. And the man peed outside. And the Bible says, and God killed him. We cannot talk about contraception in the context of the Bible or talk about a brother procreating on behalf of his late brother. It's in the Bible. You cannot even talk about Jesus and Joseph, how he brought up a child that does not belong to him. Even if in the New Testament, we can start from there. The whole Christian Messiah is founded on a woman who had a relationship outside of marriage. Because if God wanted Mary, why did he not marry her himself? How do you come into another man's home, a man who has married his wife, and you make that woman pregnant? Were there no virgins on the mountains of Bethlehem and Gilboa and Lebanon that you can find a virgin for yourself? And you start up Christianity in a home where another man invades another man's womb and pregnates that woman. And for 9 months, if not 6-7 months, Joseph has to live with a woman that he cannot have sex with because she is carrying another man's child who is the Messiah of the world. That one, I'll go ready.
No, don't say I'm not ready. Me, I'm ready. It's just that we don't have enough time. So let's lalela. All these things will be discussed. Will be discussed. Not only the men's forum, but I'm sure we'll have another one of these broadcasts where we talk about something else. But before time runs out, I want to ask you a question. Do you think, as amadoda, not only South African, as amadoda in Africa, we understand spirituality? one of the things I'm discovering, or I've discovered, is that so when you talk of African spirituality, everyone assumes skuluma ngobungoma, skuluma ngenyanga. But my question is, can I not be a Christian who is African, or vice versa?
Spirituality as a subject is a broad subject which filters into culture, it filters into fashion, it filters into education, into religiosity, into artifacts, into music, into entertainment, and even into religious expressions. So by the time you're talking about African spirituality, you need to understand that actually spirituality affects the very core of culture and how a people in a certain environment must express themselves, deal with the natural and the supernatural, and create events and festivals around those festivities to transmit that information from one generation to the next generation. So what we are calling Christian culture is actually European culture. Why do I say that? She comes with their own holidays. She comes with their own gods. She comes with their own fashion. She comes with their own music. She comes with their own diet. She comes with their own marriages. This Christianity thing we're talking about. At the end of the day, when the African says, I'm a Christian, politely they are saying, I am actually practicing European culture. I want to cut it clear so that no one doubts it. By accepting the Christian norms of practices, you have to denounce the African cultural practices. Hence, Christianity is a bully to African culture. At the end of the day, being a Christian means you must divorce yourself from your own African practices. This includes your fashion, your music, your diet, your festivals, your practices as an African. So when you begin to ask me the question, do we as African understand spirituality? The question is what we are practicing on a day-to-day basis. How we eat, how we sleep, how we marry, how we drive, how we plant, how we harvest, how we work, how we celebrate. All these bus stops of expressions are governed by the quality of the religion or culture that you've now accepted as a dominant culture over a subservient culture that is African. I'm sorry.
Very interesting because
if that sounded like a lecture, but I wanted to put a huge context so that it makes sense.
No. I'm not. See, I'm reading up. Oh, okay. You know what I do with my old man. So another thing that we are doing is missiology. So I'm reading up a lot on missiology. Now, missiology is very categoric about the fact that the missionaries came here, and one of the first things they had to do is get rid of our culture, get rid of our identity, because it was not conducive for the spreading of the gospel. It was not. But no one is saying that. You understand? No one is saying that. Everyone is, I know, I see again. Let's not touch it because we are all going to heaven. Listen, nonsense in the highest degree. I'm sorry, but I cannot be an African and not be proud of my culture. Whether it's demonic, whether it's satanic, is a material. It's another discussion for another day. But our identity, Hello.
Yes,
Hey, sorry, Chief. Yeah, no.
Rounding remarks. We have 3 minutes left.
Yeah, no. I'll give that 3 minutes to you, because I can ramble the whole night.
I think what you are starting, Mfana Kakatide, is very critical and is very important. Firstly, we need to start having a men's conversation away from women, away from politics, and away from religion. As a social, psychological conversation. Far from politics and constitutions and religious persuasions. Whereas men, we can simply do a reflection on where are we now in the 21st century as men. What are the challenges that we are facing? On the 3 subjects that you have gone ahead to highlight. What are we experiencing on our masculinity? When I sit with my wife and she wants to put cornrows on my head, and she wants to do my nails, and this metrosexual story. When a woman sees me with a beard, hey, I've never told you to stop your periods. I've never, because it's natural. I don't wake up in the morning and my beard is growing on me. It grows because I'm a man. Now, must I feel less sexually attractive because I grow my beard so that I look like the boyfriend for the whole world? What's his name? This guy from TV, Bambi Zamang, the guy, Hollywood star. He's a boyfriend of the whole world. Idis, whatever the name is, Idis.
Idris Elba.
Yes. Yeah, they all want us to look like Mr. Abba. And you look at, no, but yes, you can brush it off. But if right now you post his picture on your profile and say, ladies,
4,000 likes,
you will have 4,000 likes. So let's not run away from it. Because to the women of the 21st century, this is an epitome of what a man must look like. So if I don't happen to have the squashed in jaws, the darker skin, and the smile, and the cut, and the body weight, and the 6 packs that match up this, must I be made to feel less? That's masculinity. If on the sexuality, you as a woman, as a mother, you have not taught your boy how to use his tool. As a father, you have not taught your boy how to become sexually compatible and how to please a woman. And these boys walk into the sexual space and they get abused for small penises or big penises that cause destruction, premature ejaculation, and name it. Lack of knowledge of squirting, lack of knowledge of foreplay, lack of knowledge, all these things. Do we blame the 60% divorce rate, particularly looking at South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Lesotho in the South, which is our statistics right now? So are we, as men and women, contributing, as parents rather, contributing? Because we are now aware that our children, when they say I do in a marriage setting, they are saying I do to a monster that they don't know. How this whole marriage monster will force them to behave. And ultimately, on the spiritual level, how do I function and operate spiritually? We didn't have enough time on that, of course, because our time is up. How do I function in my house so that I can become a spiritual leader in my house? Which spirit leads my house? Is it my wife's spirit and her religion? Is it the father's spirit and his religion? When a house is being called Indlu Kakatide, which spirit resides in this house? And what are the cultural norms of the family which must drive the agenda of the home? When a woman overpowers her husband in his own home to infiltrate the pastor as the second husband. All women who are Christians are polyandrous because Jesus is the first husband. The pastor is...
Okay, let's end it there. Oh, you said all what? All Christian?
All Christian women who are married are polyandrous because they have 3 husbands in their homes. Jesus has his own requirements. The pastor has his own requirements. And the husband has his own requirements. And you as a husband You're number 3 on the list. She must make
and you're the bottom.
She must make the first 2 happy on top. So for me, we need again to begin to discuss how do we begin to deal with African men who are now third husbands in a home where they are the first men to pay the cows. If Jesus wants this wife, marry her yourself. If you as a pastor want my wife, marry her yourself. But I married her myself. Please give me some space to build my house and build my family.
Okay. Let's leave it there. Thank you for your time, sir. We should have this again.
We didn't even go to culture today. We can do another show, particularly Christianity and African culture, which I think we can actually look at the dynamics of this conundrum that the African family is solving.
No, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure to hang with you. Yeah. By the way, I am trying to persuade King Joshua Maponga III to do a house song with me. I know you don't like Western music, my brother, but listen, we must do a song together. So yeah, we'll be in studio together. But yeah, thank you very much for
your fans. I'll do it. We'll meet in the week, and we'll add other things to the sound. And yes, we'll do it.
All right, thank you for your time.
I feel like an old man. Shedding off weight and sharing things with the younger generation. But it's a beautiful. Hello.
This is the little Mac who's bugging me.
Hello.
Yeah, you won't say a word.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Anyways, yeah, thank you very much for your time. We'll catch up some other time.
All the best. Next time. Goodbye. Me and you.
Bye.
Me and you will be talking.
Yeah. All right. See you later.